Throughout your playthrough of the 2.0 and 2.1 Penacony story, I'm sure you would have noticed these hound statues and spying birds in the background. They seem to appear at key moments and cutscenes, and if you went near one, specifically for the hound statues, it gives the main character the feeling that they are being watched. But what exactly are these suspicious objects? What is their true purpose? And most importantly, just who exactly is watching us on the other side? That's what we'll be discussing in this video. The rather curious animal-themed spying tools littered around Penacony. Before we explore that in further detail, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. The topic of this video may seem to not be spoilery in nature, but some of the imagery and references may reveal things you might not want to know yet, especially if you haven't completed the 2.1 story. So just to be safe, consider this your spoiler warning. In the story so far, there have been two rather odd animals appearing in the background, the hound statues and the purple birds. They appear in seemingly random locations, from your own room in the dreamscape to Sunday's mansion, and can sometimes be seen observing a significant event in the story, such as the final fight between the Nameless and Aventurine. Now, to get the obvious out of the way, of these two, there is a rather obvious answer for the origins of the purple birds. During the discussion between Sunday and Gallagher, a bird can be seen observing the both of them. Sunday then mentions that regardless of who tries to hide within Penacony, his servants will certainly notice them and immediately inform him. The screen then pans to one of these birds, which heavily implies that the birds are indeed the servants he is referring to. On top of that, the design or appearance of these birds have some similarities to Sunday himself, specifically the eye-like motif that appears on both of them. A rather interesting coincidence is that the death meme also has this design motif, so there might be something that links all of them together, but for now, that's unconfirmed and not the topic of this video. So given the rather obvious reference by Sunday, the birds do seem to be reporting directly to him, who likely uses them to spy on the rest of Penacony. What's kind of odd is that most of the time we see these birds, they are mostly seen observing Sunday himself and his many meetings. The only other time we see them watching someone else, as far as I know, is during the final fight, but that's likely because Sunday is keeping tabs on Aventurine. It seems kinda weird to me that they are often seen observing the very person they report to, but perhaps this is as a security measure. But then that got me thinking, who else then might be watching? Because if they only report to Sunday, then it seems rather pointless, even if it's for security. Initially, I had thought that these birds belonged to one of the branches of the family, namely the nightingales, given this particular branch uses the image of a bird almost similar in appearance to the ones we see as their family crest. Aside from this, the only other thing that might relate them to these birds are their function within the family. I've covered this in another video, but the nightingales are the branch of the family that is in charge of building and expanding the dreamscape. Given Aventurine and likely the Nameless are heading into a deeper part of the dreamscape, it's inevitable for them to eventually run into the nightingales. Perhaps the appearance of these birds in 2.1 is just some foreshadowing of who might be involved in the next part of the story. But again, there isn't anything concrete that ties the nightingales to these purple birds other than the similarity of their crest. So for now, the easiest explanation is that they are fully under the control of Sunday, who uses them as a way to keep tabs on those he finds suspicious in Penacony's dreamscape. Now, despite the birds having a pretty straightforward explanation behind them, the hound statues on the other hand are a complete mystery. Nobody knows who they belong to or what they even are. They are not referenced at all in the story, and when you find them, there is a line of text given before they promptly disappear. Each statue mentions something different, from saying the statue is outright observing you, while others seem to hold within them a myriad of different emotions. Regardless of what they say, all of them disappear once they notice you are aware of them. I don't have footage on these hound statues as I was too preoccupied with Penacony's glitz and glamour at the time to remember to press record, but if you want to see what they mention, you can search up Zoologists in Fiction on YouTube. It's an achievement related to finding these hound statues. Now, given some of them mention they are observing those who interact with them, I'm inclined to believe that much like the birds, they are tools used for spying on others. They seem to be littered around the dreamscape, and given their design is clearly that of a dog or a hound, my first guess as to who exactly owns these statues is actually another one of the family branches, the Bloodhounds. If you didn't know, the Bloodhounds are a branch of the family that focuses on maintaining safety and security throughout the Penacony dreamscape. They are functionally its military or policing arm and often ensure the family's members and its assets are not disrupted by the outside guests coming into Penacony. Given their role, it would make sense that these statues act functionally like security cameras, ensuring the Bloodhounds keep tabs on anyone in the dreamscape that may pose a threat or is suspicious. Though why they are placed in such conspicuous places right out in the open is anyone's guess. Now, if we take these statues and their appearance at face value, there's no doubt the Bloodhounds are likely related. Even their crest is that of a hound. But there is one other possibility I'd like to explore. Now, this is quite a massive spoiler for the 2.1 story, so proceed at your own risk. It has to do with Gallagher. At the end of the 2.1 main story, we learn that Gallagher, who has been claiming to be a bloodhound up till that point, seems to be someone else entirely. Now, I'm not going to explore theories about the man in this video, but there's a possibility that he is not a part of the Bloodhounds at all and might have just been using their resources towards achieving his own end. If this really was the case, perhaps these hound statues are functionally under Gallagher's control and he has been using them to spy on key people or on Penacony itself. Some of the locations where these hound statues are found are rather odd, such as in the main character's own room and the children's room found deep in the dreamscape. I don't really know who or what he might be keeping tabs on, but it might be related to his current plans, which we don't really know what they are. So simple answer is, the hound statues are tools used by the Bloodhounds for monitoring the dreamscape, but the more complicated answer is that they are tools employed by Gallagher and whoever it is he is in cahoots with. Despite their rather obvious references here and how both the hound and the birds can be directly related to Gallagher and Sunday respectively, I have this suspicion that that's not all there is to them. I have this weird feeling that both these tools could be related to a bigger player, perhaps the Dream Master that Sunday reports to and the Watchmaker that Gallagher seems to be assisting. Perhaps both these figures use these tools to keep up with what is evolving in Penacony and to observe their two main players. But since we can't know for sure, we can just default to the simplest and most likely outcome. Now, before I end this video, I want to mention something a few of you brought up in the family branches video I made, which was that there is a shadow branch of the family, one that is secretly running things behind the scenes. You can only get this information if you return back to Sunday's mansion and interacted with each of the Nightingale statues. Each of them will give you a short description of the original founders of each branch. One of them actually talks about this shadow branch of the family. However, once you've talked to all of them, there is another prompt that mentions everything that was just said was fabricated, and there is no such thing as the shadow family. This is clearly something related to the Enigmata, and given the 2.1 ending, I'm sure you already know they are involved. So this makes the info shared difficult to determine in terms of its validity. Perhaps the shadow family does exist, and the Enigmata are covering it up. Or perhaps they didn't, and these descriptions are meant to divert our attentions. I thought to include it here as I have no doubt some of you might have discovered this and wonder why I never proposed this as an idea for the owners of the hound statues and purple birds. With that though, we have reached the end of the video. If you have any alternative thoughts or ideas on what exactly these objects may be, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed or had fun watching the video, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.